You're watching Money Talks with me, Oscar Sabakti. Coming up on the program, Donald Trump's trade war heats up as the EU retaliates against US tariffs. Can Tesla recharge its flagging fortunes? And it's not a pretty picture for the global art market. A global trade war is escalating after the European Union announced it's retaliating against US tariffs on metals, which have come into force. The EU says it's hitting almost $30 billion worth of American goods with levies of its own, covering a range of products from jeans and Harley-Davidson motorbikes to steel and aluminium products, as well as agricultural produce. Meanwhile, Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has criticised the US decision to impose 25% tariffs on global steel and aluminium imports. But despite the frustration, he confirmed that Australia will not retaliate with its own tariffs on US goods. President Donald Trump's move is aimed at boosting US factory jobs, but his shifting trade policies have unsettled global markets and raised concerns about a potential global economic slowdown.
The United States' decision to impose tariffs on Australian steel and aluminium as part of a global decision are concerning. It has been foreshadowed that no country, regardless of its relationship with the United States, has been granted an exemption. Such a decision by the Trump administration is entirely unjustified. This is against the spirit of our two nations' enduring friendship and fundamentally at odds with the benefits that our economic partnership has delivered over more than 70 years.
Well, let's get more on this now with Ivan Eland in Washington, D.C. He is a senior fellow and the director of the Independent Institute Center on Peace and Liberty. Really good to have you back with us, Ivan. Well, if Donald Trump wanted a trade war with the EU, he's certainly getting one now after the EU announced that it's retaliating against a range of US products. How is this going to play out, do you think? Do you think we'll actually see these levies be implemented on US goods, or might they come back from the brink somehow?
Well, I think a lot of people originally assumed that Donald Trump would back off from these because he always threatens things. But, you know, he has he's backed off on some of tariffs with Mexico and Canada. But he's also, gone through with some of them. So the problem with these things is when they accelerate, if the Europeans have retaliated, he may retaliate again. And the problem with a trade war is that international trade, he conceives as somebody taking advantage of the United States. But international trade, there wouldn't be international trade if people, companies, and countries didn't mutually benefit from it. So when a disruptor comes along like this and upends the apple cart, as we say in the U.S., it hurts everybody. Trade wars, they say there's no winners in trade wars, and there aren't.
Donald Trump's ultimate aim is to boost the US economy through these measures, through a number of means, either by forcing companies overseas to produce more goods in the United States, or forcing businesses and governments overseas to buy more US products. Do you think he'll achieve either of those aims?
Well, he's certainly not going to bring manufacturing back. Most of the manufacturing left for either technological reasons or for cost of labor reasons. The natural market is that industries go where the costs are lower, and it tends to leaving the countries like the US or Europe with high technology to focus on high technology items and financial systems and that sort of thing. So he's interfering with the national market, international market processes, and most of those manufacturing jobs are not going to come back no matter what he does. So he's saying, well, you're going to have to take a pain, but the manufacturing will come back. And that's probably not going to happen. The chief of Alcoa, an aluminum producer, you would think they would be for the tariffs, but they're not, because the leader of Alcoa company said, well, the tariffs are short term, presidents come and go, but in the long term, we make our investment decisions, that is where to put our factories over a 20 to 40 year time span. So he says, we're not going to make any, he wasn't for the tariffs. And he says, we're not going to make our decisions to invest based on them.
And as we know, Ivan, Donald Trump is fighting this tariff war on several fronts, from Mexico and Canada to China and now the European Union. Do you believe that there is a way for Trump or indeed his allies to really rein in this global trade war? Because we know it's rattled global markets, something that previously has bothered Donald Trump. Do you think he might step back given the fact that it is shaking investors right now?
Well, I think if the market keeps going down, we have a 10% U.S. stock market drop 10%, which is a correction. If it drops 20%, we're in a full bear market. So he has been, whether he says it or not, I think he's very attuned to the stock market. And if it keeps going long enough and going down, I think he'll have to relent, whether he'll say that's the reason or not. And his objectives on all these tariffs have varied from, preventing fentanyl and illegal immigrants coming across Mexican and Canadian borders, of which were neither a problem with Canada in the first place, or bringing back manufacturing, which I just said is not going to work. And, he's had other rationale for, like, the United States is always taking advantage of other countries. Well, he doesn't know that the trade balance is largely an artificial measure, but that's what he goes on. He wants to export more than importing. That's a mercantilist from the days of old in the 1900s, and that's not the free trade, which we've had basically since 1945.
Okay, Ivan Eland, we'll have to leave it there. Thanks as always for joining us on the program.
Thank you.
Well, Tesla's stock was riding high after Donald Trump took office, but now shares in the electric car maker are tumbling, suffering their steepest drop in years. The reason? Elon Musk's new role in the Trump administration. Economists say it's time to push back as investors grow wary. Lara Kilic-Arslan has the details.
Tesla shares have plunged 15%, the biggest drop in 5 years. The stock has now lost more than half its value since December, wiping out nearly $800 billion in market cap. And investors are worried. The slide started right after Elon Musk took a key role in Donald Trump's White House, leading the Department of Government Efficiency.
It's one of the few places we have leverage. Musk's power is based solely on his wealth. It's not like he's got anything else going for him. And his wealth is based almost solely on Tesla. And honestly, the stock has gone down a lot recently. It's still overvalued. If we can help make the brand toxic and have people dump the stock as well, then he will have less power and he will be of less interest to Donald Trump.
Musk is also jiggling multiple businesses. His social network platform X suffered major outages, and SpaceX is investigating 2 rocket explosions in a row. Protests have also erupted outside Tesla facilities across the US. On Saturday, more than half a dozen Tesla charging stations in Boston were set on fire. Musk said he's managing the situation with great difficulty.
Elon Musk has taken on such a massive role in the Trump administration, but he is an unelected billionaire who has not been confirmed by Congress. I don't believe that he has the best interests of the American public.
At the same time, Tesla sales are slipping. In Europe, new Tesla vehicle registrations dropped 45% in January, and sales are down in China too. With stock prices failing and demand cooling, Tesla is facing pressure on multiple fronts.
And Elon Musk, there again, his wealth has come in tremendous part from government money. Whether it was Tesla, whether it's SpaceX, every subsidy in the book, he has gotten it, and that's why he's there. That's why he's in the government.
Meanwhile, the tech billionaire is officially over $120 billion poorer than at his peak. Some analysts believe Musk's politics are hurting the brand, while others see an opportunity. But for now, one thing is clear. Tesla is going through a tough time, and investors are watching closely. Lara Kilic-Arslan, TRT World.
Well, as the US and EU trade war escalates, Spain's agriculture sector is bracing for yet another crisis. With President Donald Trump imposing a 25% tariff on imported goods, Spanish olive oil, wine and table olives could take a massive hit. The olive oil industry alone could face more than $1 billion in losses, making the US market increasingly uncertain for Spanish producers. Jaime Velasquez reports.
In Madrid, olive oil producers gathered to showcase their latest products. After 3 years of poor harvest due to drought, this season finally brings hope. But a major trade dispute with the United States threatens one of Spain's most valuable agricultural exports. The Spanish olive oil industry is in crisis mode, caught in the middle of a larger trade war. With billions at stake, Spanish producers are searching for new markets, but many say they cannot do without the United States. The Trump administration has announced a 25% tariff increase on imported goods, which could put some $3.5 billion in the Spanish exports at risk. Spain exports around 180,000 tons of olive oil to the US each year, making it one of the most valuable overseas markets for the sector.
The truth is, we still don't know how it's going to play out. We don't know how the US market or the consumers are going to react. It is clear prices will go up, but I hope they will keep buying.
Spanish exporters may also be forced to lower prices to remain competitive, which could hurt producers and small farmers.
In the end, the tariffs may contribute to even lower prices paid to the producer. There's been a quite good production this year, but it is important that farmers get a fair price for their harvest.
The impact of these tariffs won't just be felt in Spain. US companies and consumers are also likely to pay the price.
There's a lot of concern over the new tariffs that may come into play in the olive oil industry, and we're very concerned because ultimately it's the end user that will likely suffer because the prices are likely to go up.
US importers are now preparing to lobby Washington to reverse the tariffs before they take effect.
We're all hoping to put our heads together and work intelligently and try to lobby against these tariffs.
In response, the European Union has announced $26 billion in counter tariffs on US goods, targeting American whiskey, motorcycles, and food products. Experts say this is part of a larger strategy to push the US into negotiations.
The main aim of this measure is rather to push the US administration into negotiation to try to reduce and solve this situation.
But for Spain, the agricultural sector is particularly vulnerable to these trade tensions.
The industries that are mostly impacted are those of semi-manufacturing goods and capital goods. However, another sector that also faces a lot of challenges is the agriculture sector, especially as like the role of the olive oil, one of the key agriculture exports of Spain.
As the April 2nd deadline approaches, Spain's agricultural sector is hoping for a last-minute breakthrough to prevent consumers on both sides of the Atlantic from paying the high price of a trade war. Jaime Velasquez, TRT World, Madrid.
Hundreds of CEOs and government leaders from around the world have attended the Sustainable Markets Initiative in London. The summit sets out the economic case for a transition to a sustainable future. Tule Kalyon Hasnadarolu spoke to Dr. Hubert Danso, the chairman and CEO of the Africa Investor Group, to find out if there's money to be made in the green economy.
Big business meets big ambition in London at Hampton Court Palace. Global CEOs and world leaders are here for the Sustainable Markets Initiative. His Majesty King Charles III launched this initiative 5 years ago to drive a global greener economy. Now, to discuss it more in detail, I'm joined by Dr. Hubert Danso. Dr. Danso, thank you so much for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
So it has been 5 years since it's been launched. How far has it come?
Well, I think, first of all, we just have to again pay tribute to His Majesty King Charles III for having that bold vision, bringing us together 5 years ago to really place private sector at the heart of driving sustainability as the key underlying principle for value creation for a new, sustainable and better planet and low carbon economy. And I think this Astra Carta roundtable and exhibition, bringing together 300 of the world's leading business leaders and CEOs, is really a testament to, the accomplishments that we've made today. We're talking about over $2 trillion have been invested by SMI, and commitments have been made by SMI since His Majesty established us over 5 years ago.
Amazing number, amazing facts. So where do you see the global economy in the next 5 to 10 years, and what is Africa's role going to be in it?
Well, I see the low carbon economy moving forward at pace. I see that being driven on a collaborative basis with business and government. I see government working much more closely on a mandate aligned basis with us, creating that enabling and hospitable environment for us to innovate. I mean, if you just look at what we've been able to accomplish in the last 5 years, working with governments to be able to put in place the right levels of regulation, we've been able to dramatically reduce the cost of green technologies. And I think Africa is going to play a central role in that. A lot of these conversations here have been talking about Africa's superabundant natural capital, and that is the real currency of the future. About $6 trillion worth of natural capital the continent has, and we're always finding new ways to establish that as a globally competitive investable asset class, which now innovatively, through the work of the Africa Council that was launched at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting last year, can now be designed so that it can be put on African governments' balance sheets.
So economic growth or net zero goals, do we have to make a choice?
I think they are one in the same. We're talking now about a low carbon economy. That is the future, and that combines sustainability, environment, and it's an economic reality. If we don't deal with the climate, it's a financial risk, and it's also a business opportunity. It's a contribution to ensuring that we've got a resilient and sustainable economy for all. So I think they're one in the same, and that's the way that we really do look at it. We're not separating one. It's not a trade-off. It's an opportunity that we need to run towards.
Turkey's automotive industry has long been a driving force in the country's economy, maintaining its top position in export rankings. For 18 of the last 19 years, the sector has led the way, and 2024 was no exception. Ömer Bakalolu reports from Bursa.
From the factory floor to the global marketplace, Turkey's auto industry is firing on all cylinders. It remains the backbone of the country's exports, powering Turkey's economy constantly over the past 2 decades. Last year, automotive exports jumped by 6%, reaching over $37 billion. That's more than 1 in every $6 Turkey earned from selling things abroad. One company fueling the success is Mando in Bursa, Turkey's car manufacturing hub. They produce the parts that keep vehicles running smoothly.
As Mando, we are producing the shock absorber. There are 2 types, rear and front shock absorber also we are producing. We are supplying most of the OEM in Turkey and also in the European side, including the Germany, France, and then also the other countries.
Despite the global car market facing a bumpy road in recent years, the Turkish company not only maintained its position, but has managed to grow its sales by forging partnerships with new allies.
According to export side, Turkey increased 2.5% compared to previous year. However, Bursa increased to 3.3% compared to previous year, and as we are Mando, increased 27% compared to previous year. So we are growing up very fast, and this year also we will be increase our export number 42% compared to previous year.
Turkey's auto industry is not just keeping pace, it's accelerating. And with production lines running at full speed, companies like Mando will remain in the driver's seat of the country's exports.
In 2024, overall shipments abroad hit an all-time high of $262 billion, despite challenges to global trade. Automotive companies started 2025 with a bang, increasing shipments abroad by 8% in January to $3 billion. That's helped overall exports, marking the highest January figure of $21.2 billion. As the engines of the auto industry rev up, Turkey is now in the fast lane, staring toward another record-breaking year for exports. Ömer Bakaloğlu, TRT World, Bursa, Turkey.
Meanwhile, Turkey's economy grew more than expected in the fourth quarter, despite high interest rates aimed at curbing inflation. GDP expanded by 3% in the final 3 months of the year, bringing full-year growth to 3.2%. This marks an acceleration from 2.2% in the third quarter and 2.4% in the second quarter, thanks to increased household spending. The country's central bank raised its benchmark rate by 4,150 basis points over the course of a year to cool inflation before beginning rate cuts last December, following signs of improvement. Consumer price growth slowed for the 9th consecutive month in February to reach its lowest level since July 2023, suggesting the country is making progress in tackling inflation. Filiz Katman is the president of the Energy Politics and Markets Research Center at Istanbul Aydın University. She says Turkey's new economic program is bearing fruit with an improvement in financial indicators.
It is primarily the program which is called as Comprehensive Reform Policy, announced by Mehmet Şimşek, Minister of Treasury. And the reforms made in that program have been giving the fruitful outcomes. We also have key industries which contributed heavily with regard to export performance that you have already mentioned in the video just minutes before. Automotive industry is one of them, but we also have another one which ranks Turkey as number one in the world, and it is production of unmanned air vehicles. And also Turkey ranks number 11 globally in the defense industry. That's why these key industries created a huge contribution to the economic growth with the export performance, and primarily what have been planned within the comprehensive reform policy will keep contributing to the economic growth and economic performance of Turkey.
The global art market took a major hit in 2024 with fewer high-end sales and a wave of auction cancellations. Sotheby's, one of the biggest names in the industry, responded by cutting 100 jobs. As upcoming auctions from Sotheby's and Christie's are set to reveal more about the market's direction, the current downturn has already left a lasting mark on the industry. Auction sales tumbled in 2024, with the total value dropping by a third compared to the previous year. Sales amounted to $9.9 billion, the lowest since 2009, driven by political instability, wars, rising interest rates, and economic slowdowns. The downturn was felt worldwide, but China took the hardest hit, with its market shrinking by 63% to just $1.8 billion. Other major hubs were not spared either. New York, London, and Paris saw declines of 29%, 28%, and 21%, respectively. Even sales of works by iconic artists such as Pablo Picasso and Mark Rothko were severely impacted. Picasso's sales plunged to $223 million, down from $597 million in 2023, a drop of nearly two-thirds. While the high-end segment struggled, the lower-end market held firm. Art priced under $50,000 continued to sell steadily as collectors shifted focus to more affordable pieces during economic uncertainty. Despite the slump, a few sales still turned heads. A painting by Belgian surrealist René Magritte set a new record for the artist, fetching an impressive $121 million. Meanwhile, an AI-generated portrait of Alan Turing fetched $1 million, proving that innovation is finding its place in the art world. Richard Fitzwilliams is an art commentator. He says while the global art market has been hit hard by geopolitical events, it typically rebounds after a tough year.
Well, firstly, I mean, as you mentioned, we've had this enormous downturn in China, which over the last 30 years has become a major player. But also, this has been mirrored in downturns, not 2/3 as in China, but also in the United States, Britain, and also in France. And what we've seen very clearly is the way the art market, firstly, it's not regulated. There's no question that it's clearly been affected by geopolitical events. Obviously, COVID played a part in this, certainly in China, but also one's looking, as far as Britain's concerned, there was some effect from Brexit and inflation, high taxes and so forth. The problem is that top artists, Jasper Johns, Picasso and so forth, I mean, if they're not immune, you wonder what will happen next. The art market does go up and down so in an extraordinary way, because we had, for example, in 2021, there was something of a boom. This has echoes of the 2008-9 slump, and that would be extremely serious.
And if you have any stories you'd like our reporters to look into or any questions for our experts, you can send us a post on X at TRT Money Talks. And that is all from Money Talks for now. From me and the whole team here in Istanbul, thanks for watching. Bye for now.